you up for your settlement check that's coming. See, because I'm going to unearth something that maybe some of you have never been told before today. And so we're going to unearth a settlement check that's been waiting on you all the days of your life. And when you get that check, you got to have good stewardship with God. See, look at this right here. Somebody say, I'm ready, Pastor. Bring it on. See here, look at this right here. Genesis chapter 15. You're going to preach today. Genesis chapter 15, we find out that God says this to Abraham. He says to Abraham, listen to this, church. Come here. That means bring your spirit here if you're new. He says to Abraham, he says, Abraham, your descendants will be in Egypt for 400 years. He says they are going to be afflicted for 400 years. And church, that's so significant because he's telling Abraham, he says they're going to be in Egypt. And somebody said, well, Pastor, what exactly is Egypt mean? See, Egypt is where we all lived at once before in our life. Egypt is where you were before you met God. Egypt is when you didn't care about nothing, that you didn't care about sinning, you didn't care about repenting, you didn't care if you cussed people out, you had no remorse to anything. Look at Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 26. Put that up there for us real quick. Because we've all were in Egypt at some point. Look what it says here. It's talking about in Egypt. It says you've committed, it's talking about the people of God, you also committed harlotry with the Egyptians, your very fleshly neighbors. So he's saying that Egypt represents fleshliness. It represents the flesh, and it represents self. It represents everything you were before you came to God. He says your very fleshly neighbors, and increase your acts of harlotry. Harlotry is speaking of spiritual adultery. He said to provoke me to anger. So God says, listen, when you were in Egypt, church, Egypt is the place that, where we forget sometimes because we got saved. You know what I'm talking about. But we all came out of Egypt. We were born in Egypt. When you came out of your mama's womb, you thought it was a hospital. You were in Egypt, church. You came out in your flesh. You did nothing right. There was nothing good in you. You never came out with angels, wings and all those things. We all were messed up at some point in time. See, the thing about Egypt, let me help you out because y'all looking like you forgot what Egypt was. Let me bring you there. Egypt was when you were clubbing every Saturday night. Girl, what you wearing tonight? Girl, I know Pookie, Ray, John, and Boom Boom, they all gonna be there tonight. Girl, wear that short skirt, them long heels. We gonna do our thing. Who's buying tonight? You know what I'm saying? Drinking and driving, smoking and toting. See, let me, y'all not there yet. Let me, you remember when, when you used to have, you used to have like 2-3 women at the same time. Y'all with me? You used to have 2-3 men at the same time. And some of you with the same sex, and God had to deliver you from that. Are you there now? See, that's Egypt right there. When you had anger problems, you didn't take care of your babies. You didn't care if she left. You didn't care about nothing but your flesh. You didn't care about nothing but self. You cussed somebody out at a drop of a hat and didn't even care about it. See, that's Egypt right there. We all were in Egypt. When we were born, I didn't ask God for that. I came out in Egypt. I came out ready to cuss my mama out. I came out ready to just knock somebody out. It was part of who I was. But God had to deliver us from our Egypt. God had to go ahead and bring all of us out of our Egypt. See, some of you looking at me like, Pastor, I ain't never been in Egypt. Stop lying. You were so deep in Egypt. That's part of your problem. When you were in Egypt, you were a liar, and you still dealing with Egypt. Used to lie to people, used to just say anything, and didn't have no remorse about it. See, Egypt, and so you say, well, Pastor, I may struggle with a little bit of, Egypt right now. But listen, here's the difference. Now when we do it, we're convicted. Or you should be convicted, or you really haven't come out of Egypt. See, I didn't say we got perfect. It's just when I mess up, I can only go so long without God dealing with me. I can't do it no more. God bothers me, and my conscience gets to me. I can't sleep at night. I got to find somewhere to pray and ask forgiveness. See, that's the difference between us now, because you're like, well, I struggle with a little bit of that now. But see, back then, I ain't think about no God. Oh, what's a God to me? I'm God. My flesh is God. I ain't repenting to you. I ain't sorry. I do it again. You mess with, that's where we were in Egypt. See, we forgot about them days that y'all been worshiping and bowing down. No. Don't forget you've been in Egypt. Don't forget what God brought you out of. That messes me up about Christians. Forgot who we were. You ain't been saved all that long. You ain't been all, come on now. But here's what I'm preaching right here, is because here's what I need you to know, is that God says to Abraham, he says, they're going to be in Egypt for 400 years. He said, but I'm going to bring them out. Look what it says here. Let me bring you back to the text. Here it is. I want you to get this. He says this right here in Genesis chapter 15. Let's look at it again. He says this. He says in verse 13, he says, verse 14, he says, and all the nations whom they serve I will judge, and afterwards they shall come out. Church, let me help you right here. He said, how many years? 400. Come on, we are preaching church. How many years? 400. He said they're going to be in there for 400 years. This is what I love about God, is they weren't in Egypt yet. They weren't even around yet. But he says, Abraham, they're going to be in there for 400 years. So you say, Pastor, what are you telling me? God says there's a set time to come out of Egypt. You can't stay in Egypt when the set time comes. God said there's a set time, and I'm going to bring them out of Egypt. See, the set time came for all of you, or you wouldn't be here today. There was a set time for every mindset of Egypt to be broken off your life. There was a set time that the devil had his hand on you. There was a set time you couldn't even get out of Egypt till the set time. You may have thought about getting saved, but then the devil held you captive. But let me tell you, there's a set time. You say, well, Pastor, what are you preaching to? Well, there's some sons and daughters you praying for. There are some people and grandparents you've been praying for. Let me tell you something. There's a set time. And when the set time comes, the devil's got to loose your babies. When the set time comes, your daughter's got to come out of that promiscuousness. Your daughter's not going to be a lesbian no more, because there's a set time when the devil has to take his hand off of God's people. See, he said this before they got there. He said there's a set time. He said 400 years, and that's a wrap, baby. He said after that, devil, take your hands off of them. See, we didn't just come out by ourselves. There was a set time on your life. The jail's doors opened up, and you walked out of Egypt. But until that set time, we would have still been there. That's the grace of God on your life. That's why you never think you're better than what you are, because if it wasn't for the set time, you'd still be smoking and toting around, sleeping with everybody. But the set time came. See, the devil realizes there's a set time. And see, this is what you do with your children that you send, Pastor, I'm praying for them. All you got to do is pray for their grace. God, keep them while they're in Egypt right now. Keep them until the set time. God, let the grace find them while they're out there. God, just let my babies hang on until the set time. But I got news for you. Psalms 102 says the set time is now. So your babies are coming out of Egypt. The Holy Ghost said the set time for the church is now. Somebody say now. That means your babies are coming out now. Those you've been praying for are coming out now. The homosexual son is going to be set free now. Everything your daughter's been dealing with, she's getting delivered now. Your mama's coming off drugs now. Your daddy's coming off alcohol now. You shouldn't get, my God, y'all better get this morning. There is a set time when the devil has to let go. There's a set time. See, Egypt is nothing more than a mental and spiritual prison. And when the jail's doors open, people just come out of jail. And the devil knows this. This is what he told Abraham. He said, for 400 years, and then the set time comes. See, all we got to do, church, just pray for their grace. Don't you dare condemn them. You didn't want nobody condemning you. Just pray the grace of God. See, this is why people don't want to come out of Egypt when the doors open. They step out and you browbeat them. They're like, I'll go back in. It was safer in Egypt. No, just come out and say, hey, the grace of God kept you. I love you. I understand. I've been in jail before. I know what it feels like. I'm not going to condemn you. Come on out. I'll get you with the love of God. Because until my set time, I'll still be in there.